Welcome to Reddit Echoes, where stories of nuclear revenge don't just satisfy you, they make you shout, serves them right. Have you ever been betrayed by someone close? Have you ever been humiliated so deeply that you just wanted to burn everything down? Today you'll hear tales of pure, unfiltered revenge, where the toxic, the backstabbers, and the downright despicable finally get what they deserve. From a greedy uncle who ended up behind bars, to a park director who slaughtered ducks for profit and lost everything. And let's not forget the student who tried to sabotage others to win a title only to be kicked out of their dream school permanently. Trust me, you don't want to miss a single second of this. Story 1. My uncle got arrested for messing with me. I never thought I'd be the reason my own uncle ended up in jail. But if anyone deserved it, it was him. Let me start by saying I'm a gun enthusiast. Not the wave it around and scare people type, but the sport shooting kind. I train regularly at a range far outside of town. I know the laws, I follow every regulation down to the letter. My uncle, on the other hand, hot-headed, obnoxious, and basically family famous for being a massive jerk. It all started on my birthday. He showed up all buddy-buddy and gave me a gift, a small box of tannerite, which if you don't know is a legal but explosive target material. Sounds like a fun, edgy gift, right? Yeah, that was bait. The next day we planned to go shooting. That's when my uncle asked me to bring a very specific gun, one that uses rare, insanely expensive ammo. I only had about 20 rounds left and I was saving them for competition. So I politely said no. That's when he lost it. I mean, full-on meltdown. He started shouting that I was ungrateful that I owed him for the tannerite. I just laughed and said, "If you think it's a debt, take it back." Then I turned to head upstairs to put my guns away. I heard stomping, and before I could even react, this man was charging up the stairs yelling like a lunatic. Now here's where I got lucky, or maybe just prepared. In my gear bag, I always carry bear spray. Not for humans, obviously, it's for wildlife if I'm shooting outdoors. But that day, it came in handy. I turned, aimed, and pulled it out. He'd been hit with bear spray before, so the moment he saw it, he stopped in his tracks. He backed off cursing, but not before kicking my bedroom door off its hinges. I thought it was over. I figured he'd go home, cool off. I gathered my gear, loaded up my car, ready to head to the range. But nope. Just as I was putting things in the trunk, 2 cop cars came screaming into my driveway, sirens blaring, lights flashing. Next thing I know, I'm on the ground, hands zip-tied with guns being confiscated. Why? Because my uncle called the cops and told them I threatened to kill him with a gun inside my own house. What he didn't know, I have security cameras in my home. So I showed the footage to the officers, every second of him screaming, threatening, rushing up the stairs, and me calmly using bear spray in self-defense. They released me. No apology, of course. After that, I cut him off completely. But then I heard through family that he was going around telling everyone I was crazy, dangerous, that I should have been arrested. And that's when I thought, okay, you want war? You'll get it. See, I knew a few things about him, like how he kept unregistered firearms at home, no locks, no gun safes. Worse, he hunted illegally right in his backyard. And he liked to brag. He'd often send pictures to my grandma of his trophies, and one of them was a federally protected animal. So one day while visiting her, I borrowed her phone, she never locks it, and transferred all the photos to myself. Guns, ammo, dead wildlife, all of it. Then I sent everything to the Wildlife Protection Agency and the Illegal Firearms Task Force, anonymously. 3 weeks later, they raided his house. They took everything. Every gun, every round. They impounded his truck. His wife was screaming. The kids were terrified. The family was in absolute chaos. He was arrested. From what I've heard, he's facing up to 15 years in prison if they hit him with all the charges, illegal weapons, killing protected wildlife, and more. Do I feel guilty? Not even a little. If anything, I think I saved someone, maybe myself, maybe someone else, from being on the receiving end of one of his rage fits one day. A man with a temper, unregistered weapons, and zero regard for life has no business owning a gun. He also has no business being my uncle. They say don't poke the quiet ones. Yeah, they were talking about me. I didn't need fists. I had the law. And if my dear uncle is reading this from behind bars, sorry, buddy, you don't get to be a bully forever. Story 2. The government worker who stole my duck. So I destroyed his career. People say don't play with your food. Me, I believe in a different rule. Don't mess with a grieving person and their duck. At the time, I was just a senior biology student living a perfectly boring life. No drama. I was that person who ate lunch alone, studied through email chains, and ran on caffeine and biochem exams. Until one day, I found Philip. Philip was a duckling, yes, a real duck. Tiny, fuzzy yellow like a boiled egg. I found him alone by a pond near my dorm, trembling in the tall grass, ant bites all over his legs. Nobody dared to touch him. But of course, as a biology student with a soft heart, I brought him home. I made him a little nest from a cardboard box lined with a soft towel. Every day I fed him fresh greens, gave him clean water, and played jazz music to help him sleep. Not joking, Philip loved Louis Armstrong. He became my shadow. He slept in my hoodie while I studied. He waddled behind me when I took walks. People around campus knew him as the science duck. Life was weirdly perfect, until he showed up. His name was Kevin, a county-level public servant, bald on top, always looked like happiness gave him a rash. He worked in animal control, more specifically in the Wildlife Enforcement Office. One day I was out with Philip in the dorm courtyard when Kevin just appeared out of nowhere. He looked me up and down and asked, "Does this duck have a license?" I blinked. A license for a baby duck. I explained politely that I was caring for him temporarily because he'd been abandoned. I even mentioned I'd already contacted a rescue center, but they hadn't responded yet. Kevin nodded, said nothing, and left. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Not even close. 2 days later, Kevin came back, this time with a cop. He handed me an official-looking document and said coldly, "Under Code XYZ Municipal Ordinance regarding wildlife management, this animal must be surrendered immediately." I tried to reason with him. I begged. I even cried, not out of fear, but because I knew Philip wouldn't survive the stress of being taken away. Kevin just smirked. "You should learn to say goodbye to animals. It's not a pet." And then, he scooped up my trembling Philip like he was a sack of trash and walked away. 3 days later, I got the news Philip was dead. He died of heat stress at the shelter, which was completely unsuitable for a baby duck. I broke down. But heartbreak didn't last long, because it was quickly replaced by something else, rage. So I started digging. And what I found made my blood boil. Kevin had a history. He was infamous among students. He once confiscated a foreign student's cat for misidentifying the breed. He once threatened to fine someone for feeding squirrels pumpkin seeds on their balcony. I'd had enough. It was time to dismantle this man. Step 1, gather evidence. I found other students who had been harassed by Kevin, and they were more than ready to help. One had a recording of Kevin making nasty remarks about students. Another had photos of him tossing a cat into a metal cage like it was a basketball. I compiled everything into a 28-page dossier with photos, audio, written testimonies. And then, I sent it to the city's Department of Animal Welfare, local news outlets, and of course, the town's subreddit. The Reddit post alone hit over 10,000 upvotes in 24 hours. People started digging into Kevin. Turns out he'd already been warned once for abusing his authority. An old article from 8 years ago showed he'd forced an elderly couple to neuter their dog without cause. It spread like wildfire. 2 weeks later, Kevin was suspended. A month later, fired. I heard his wife, who worked in the same building's records department, quit from sheer humiliation. They ended up moving to another state to start fresh. As for me, I printed a photo of Philip, framed it, and placed it in our biology department office. At graduation, my professor picked it up and said, "One little duck can change a system, and one determined student can change an entire town." I don't know if you've ever loved an animal so much it felt like a piece of your soul, but I have. And when someone rips that soul out of you, I'll tear down the system they hide behind. Philip, you were tiny, but you brought down someone with power, and I've never been more proud. Story 3. He framed me for drug use, so I took away his scholarship and his future. Have you ever been stabbed in the back by someone you thought was your friend? I have. And the knife went so deep it nearly ruined everything I had worked for. But I didn't just sit there and take it. I fought back, and I made damn sure he wouldn't rise from the rubble he created. This all started in my senior year of high school. I was the textbook model student, near-perfect GPA science club track team, and gunning for a full-ride medical scholarship. I wasn't rich. I had no connections. All I had was effort. Hard, brutal effort. Then there was Travis, the guy I thought was my friend. Smartish. Not as sharp as me, but came from a well-off family. His parents were major donors to the school, so he carried that quiet air of privilege that even teachers tiptoed around. We were in the same science research team, applied for the same scholarships, and both made it to the finals of the national academic competition, the one thing that could practically guarantee a place in our dream universities. But what I didn't know was that Travis didn't see me as a friend. He saw me as competition, and he was ready to eliminate the threat. It all unraveled when my homeroom teacher called me into the office. Waiting there were the principal and a police officer. My stomach dropped. They told me I was under suspicion for possessing illegal substances on school grounds. What I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't even go to parties. And then, the principal showed me the evidence. A tiny plastic bag of white powder found in my locker. I was in complete shock. Someone had planted it. My parents were called in. I was forced to take a drug test. Suspended immediately. Barred from the national competition. All my scholarship applications frozen. That night I cried harder than I ever had in my life. But after the tears came resolve. I knew I was innocent. And I also knew there was only one person with both motive and opportunity to do this to me, Travis. So I started digging. Luckily, I had a friend, Ethan, a bit of a tech nerd. He had helped me set up a small camera inside our shared lab locker a while back to protect expensive chemical samples. It wasn't intended to catch saboteurs, but it did. Reviewing the footage, we saw Travis clear as day sneaking into my locker. He shoved something inside, looked around like a third-rate spy, then slipped away. I didn't know whether to feel heartbroken or furious, but more than anything, I felt ready. We handed the footage to my family lawyer. Then I sent copies to the school administration. Within 24 hours, the school dropped my suspension, revoked the testing ban, and issued a formal apology letter. As for Travis, suspended indefinitely. But I wasn't done. He didn't just try to hurt my future, he nearly destroyed it. If I didn't act, he'd do it to someone else. So I wrote a blog post detailing everything. No names, but with just enough detail that anyone from school would instantly recognize the villain. The post went viral. It hit Reddit. It hit Twitter. And then, a parent messaged me. She had a recording of Travis bragging about how he could take down any nerd with one little baggie. That recording, I sent it straight to the scholarship board, the same one where he was a finalist. The result, he lost the scholarship. For good. But it didn't stop there. The university he applied to. They revoked his admission after receiving multiple complaints, including my evidence and that voice recording. He ended up having to repeat his senior year, lost all his credits from the final exams, his record stained forever. Me, I got reinstated, won the national competition, got accepted into 2 top universities, chose the one with a full ride and living stipend. A few months later, when everything had finally calmed down, I saw Travis again. He was working at the checkout counter of a local grocery store. Shaved head, eye bags, Looked like life chewed him up and spit him out. When he saw me, he quickly turned away. I just smiled, not out of smugness, but because I knew deep down that I had taken back my future. And justice. Sometimes life won't tell you who your real friends are until they're the ones pushing you off a cliff. But if you climb back up, don't just stand there. Pull them into the hole they tried to dig for you. Story 4. My sister-in-law cheated with her boss, so I took her career and her family. If you ask me if I believe in karma, I don't. Because I am karma. I'm not someone who goes looking for drama. I mind my business. But the moment you stab someone in my family, especially my older brother, you don't just make an enemy. You get me. And trust me, I'm way more patient than karma ever could be. My name is Mia. I'm 27. My brother Daniel is 3 years older than me and genuinely one of the kindest people I know. Growing up, he was the golden child. Straight-A student, gentle soul, never drank, never partied. Honestly, if Daniel were a movie character, he'd be that too good for this world guy the audience cries over. He married Lena, a smart, charming, and manipulative woman. I liked her at first. Who wouldn't? She was elegant, sweet-talking, and knew exactly how to win over my parents. But 3 years into their marriage, things started to feel off. Lena always had an excuse to skip family dinners, always on business trips, always too busy. Daniel, being the ever-loving fool, would just say, "She's working hard for her career." Sure sounded reasonable. Until one day he found lipstick on the collar of his own shirt, and it sure as hell wasn't his. He was devastated. But he didn't say a word. He loved Lena too much. He feared losing her more than being betrayed. That's when I stepped in. Now I work in media, so let's just say I know a thing or two about tracking someone's digital footprint. I found Lena's secret Instagram, the one where she posted artsy wine glasses, luxury dinners, and captions like "Passion fuels success," all while tagging high-end hotels. Funny, none of them were in the cities she claimed to be in. Then I found her boss's Facebook, Victor, married, kids, and surprise posting selfies from the same places as Lena. Different angles, same locations. You see where I'm going. To everyone else, it looked like business trips. To me, it screamed illicit office affair with a side of deception. So I started gathering evidence. I made a burner Instagram account and followed both Lena and Victor. And then I started cross-referencing timestamps. Lena posts a view from the 20th floor at JW Marriott at 8:00 p.m. 3 minutes later, Victor posts a wine glass, same lighting, same window view, tagged from the same hotel. They never tagged each other, but they didn't have to. After 2 weeks, I had a whole folder full of screenshots, geotags, timestamps. I looked like a damn FBI agent in pajamas. But I didn't stop there. I reached out to a friend who works in cybersecurity. Asked him to help check Daniel's old iPad, the one Lena used for a while, and forgot to log out of. Guess what? All her iMessages were still synced there. I read every sickening word. "I miss you at 2:00 a.m. Let's run away together." And worst of all, her saying Daniel is so dull but easy to manipulate. I was shaking with rage. But I didn't tell Daniel, not yet, because I was saving it for the final blow. Lena was planning a huge PR gala for her company, a media and trust event. I know the irony is brutal with major corporate sponsors in attendance. I registered as a freelance journalist covering startup events, got myself a guest pass. And that night, right when Lena and Victor were on stage giving their speeches, I played a little video. A perfect montage, photos from hotel rooms I love, texts, overlapping Instagram posts, and one glorious contradiction, Lena claiming she was on a business trip in Hanoi, with photos clearly taken in Ho Tram. Silence. Then gasps. Then chaos. Victor was fired that night. Lena lost her job, lost her brand deals, got crucified on social media for a week straight, and Daniel, he didn't yell. He didn't cry. He quietly signed the divorce papers, got full custody of their daughter, and moved into my place to heal. As for Lena, She lost everything: career, reputation, family. Her parents called mine to apologize. Lena. She texted me one line: "You're insane." And I replied, "No, I'm your karma." Never betray someone who would have given you the world. And never underestimate the little sister standing quietly in the background. Because when she finally steps into the light, she'll burn every lie you ever tried to hide. Story 5. My family tried to force me to marry my cousin. I made them regret it publicly. I grew up in a family where the word tradition was used as a shield to justify every ridiculous thing. You know, the kind, the old-school Asian family where daughters are told that sacrifice is a virtue and your parents decide your future. Where everything is swept under the rug as family matters, even when it's toxic enough to choke the soul right out of you. And one day that tradition turned into a forced marriage proposal. With my cousin. My name is Lynn. I'm 24 years old, a software developer living in Ho Chi Minh City. I'm independent, have a stable job, and I've been in a relationship for 2 years with someone I actually chose. His name is Hung. He's not flashy, not some Prince Charming type, but he's kind, genuine, and he treats me like I'm me, not a possession. One day, my mom called and said, "Your dad and I want you to come home for Grandma's memorial. There's something important we need to discuss." I didn't question it. I came home, but there was no memorial. Instead, I walked into what looked like a family reunion with every relative present and one guy sitting in the spotlight, my cousin Tuan. He's 5 years older than me, studied abroad, and now works at some government agency. But I've never felt comfortable around him. There's something in his eyes, the way he looked at me like I was already his. Then right in the middle of dinner, my grandmother wiped her tears and said, "Before I die, I just want to see the two of you married. Keep our bloodline strong." I froze. I thought it was a joke. It wasn't. Everyone nodded like it was totally normal. My mom smiled like a damn matchmaker. My dad poured celebratory wine. And Tuan, he just sat there grinning like the deal had already been sealed. I stood up and said, "I already have a boyfriend. I'm not marrying my cousin." Dead silence. My mom dragged me outside and said coldly, "You really think that guy loves you? He has nothing. Marry Tuan, you'll get a house, a stable job, and support from the family. Refuse, and you'll be alone forever." My dad didn't say a word. He just stared at me like I was defective merchandise. That night I left. I thought it was over. It wasn't. A few days later, my company received an anonymous tip accusing me of software theft from my internship. I nearly got suspended. Thank God my manager trusted me. An internal investigation proved it was all fake. And I knew who was behind it. Tuan. He even had the nerve to text me. "Sorry, the adults acted out of line. But if you marry me, I'll ask them to withdraw the complaint." That was it, I snapped. And I made a plan. I gathered evidence, screenshots of Tuan's texts. The anonymous email traced back to my uncle's house where Tuan lives. A voice recording of my mom admitting they wanted the marriage to keep assets in the family. Then I handed everything to a female lawyer who specializes in protecting women from forced marriages and family coercion. But I wasn't done. I wrote a long post on my Facebook. No names. Just the story. How I was being pressured to marry my cousin. How they tried to destroy my career when I said no. And how tradition is often just a leash to control women. The post went viral. Some news outlets picked it up. Articles started popping up titled, "When Family Tradition Turns into Coerced Marriage." Suddenly, I wasn't just some girl from a conservative family. I became a symbol, a warning, a mirror for so many others who had gone through the same. Tuan was suspended from work for bringing dishonor. The extended family held a crisis meeting to officially withdraw the marriage proposal. My grandmother called me asking me to come home so she could apologize. My mother called me crying, yelling that I had aired our dirty laundry. I told her, "No one ripped the laundry, Mom. You threw me off a cliff. I just turned on the light so people could see how deep it was. A month later, Hung and I held a small engagement party. No relatives from my side were invited. Only friends and his family, the ones who saw me as a person, not a transaction. I moved apartments, changed my number, and I swore no one would ever use the word tradition to chain me down again. Family is meant to be a place of love, not a prison of obedience. If someone uses blood ties to trap you in a life you didn't choose, you have every right to walk away. You might lose some relatives, but you'll keep the one person who matters most, yourself. And those were the explosive revenge stories that Reddit blessed us with today. Sometimes justice doesn't wear a cape. Sometimes it's just a well-aimed email or a slice of cheese laced with the perfect virus. If you've ever wanted to get back at someone but didn't dare, consider these stories your dose of inspiration. Or better yet, a brutal reminder that you should never be the villain. Because one day the person you thought was weak might just be the one dragging you straight to hell. Comment below and tell us which story gave you the most satisfaction. Hit like if you've ever dreamed of revenge but never got your shot. And don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Echoes, because here, justice always comes with a twist.